You've probably heard the great news that inflation is finally coming down. And then you've also gone to the grocery store recently and you're looking at me saying, "What do you mean coming down? Prices are still super high." I'm Ross Welte. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest misconceptions that I'm seeing in the economy right now. And this goes from the general public to the news media, all the way to the politicians in Washington, and why lower inflation does not mean lower prices. Understanding this is going to help you better plan in your financial life and for your retirement. So let's jump right into this. Now, I have a Suburban, and let's say I'm driving that Suburban down the road, down the highway, and the speed limit's 70 miles an hour. And being the good citizen that I am, I'm going exactly 70 miles an hour. I'm cooking down the highway. And then I hit a zone where it switches to 40 miles an hour. So what do? I slow the Suburban down, and now I'm going 40 miles an hour. Now, in both of those zones, I was headed forward. The difference between those two is that in the 40 mile an hour zone, I was headed forward, but at a slower speed. This is inflation. If my Suburban is inflation, when we're in the 8-9% inflation range that we saw recently, prices were going up really fast. Now we're in this zone where we're at about 3% inflation. Prices are still going up. They're just going up at a slower speed. So the situation where prices would actually go down is called deflation. And actually, it's pretty rare historically and historically bad for the economy. So some places you might see this is your energy bill. Maybe a few years ago you were paying $100 a month, and then the next year it was $115 a month, and then the following year it was $117 a month. The difference there is that your bill still went up. It's just in that third year, it went up at a lower rate. That's what inflation coming down actually refers to. So why does this matter? Because it sounds like, well, there's a lot to inflation, all the calculations, the consumer price index. And if you don't know what the consumer price index is, the CPI, it's something you've heard of, but essentially it's a big basket full of stuff that we buy. Rent, groceries, food, clothes, all those things that we buy on a regular basis. And the government measures the cost of that basket last year compared to the cost of that basket this year at the same time. And that increase in price is the inflation rate. So again, still up, just at a slower pace. So when it comes to your retirement, you need to understand that this constant increase in prices decreases the value of your money over time. In other words, your money buys less the longer you live. So a retiree living on a fixed income might notice that the grocery bill, healthcare, utilities, all that stuff takes up more of their budget each year. So from a planning perspective, we need to plan for persistent inflation, meaning that it's always going to be happening. And in some cases, it will be higher inflation like we've experienced recently. And just for reference, even if inflation stayed at 3% for the next 10 years, in 10 years' time, everything you're buying is 35% more expensive than it is today. In other words, your dollars, your purchasing power has been reduced by 35%. So what do we do about it? What it means is that we need to be thinking about this in relation to our retirement plan. We need to make sure that we put our money in a position where it can grow and at least match, if not exceed inflation over the long term. And what does this do? This makes sure that your lifestyle and your buying power are not eroded over time by this slow moving threat. So I hope that's helpful. If you take anything away from today, it's this. Lower inflation does not mean lower prices. Inflation is your speedometer. Prices are the odometer. I hope you get that reference. I'm Ross Welte with Five Stone Financial Group. I hope this has been helpful. Have a good day.